Hey everyone, Luke here. Hope you're doing well. And today I'm going to talk about cadmium. It's kind of is part of my toxic metal video. The next in line for the toxic metals on videos. Last one was mercury. Today we're going to talk about cadmium, the sources of it, how to eliminate it, how we go about treating cadmium toxicity, and the physiological effects it have on the body. Because it's very important to realize that minerals have not only effects on our bodily systems, but also our personalities and our very essence, our energies, our chakras, if you will. All these different things. And it's very important to realize that minerals have certain energetic effects that they broadcast to our bodies, personalities, spirituality, everything about us, our very essence. Minerals, more so than even people realize, are very, very fundamental to our nature. Not only in our enzymes and our bones. I mean, most people and scientists and the layperson, they know about minerals in the bones and things like that and how they work together to give us health. But they don't realize the energetic qualities of these minerals. They don't understand that these energetic qualities impart those energetic qualities unto us, and they give us certain qualities. Okay? So we're going to talk about that as well. So, cadmium. Now, just like all the other toxic metals, if you're watching this video, most likely you have cadmium in your body, and you have too much of it, unless you've been on a nutritional balancing program for maybe 5-10 years. Okay? Now, cadmium stays in the body a long time because it's the most toxic metal to our bodies, and we'll talk about the reasons why. Okay? So, let's talk about sources. So, first of all, smoking. Okay? Smoking anything tends to build up cadmium in the tissues. Smoking cigarettes, smoking marijuana especially. Part of this is the smoking itself of the substance, and part of it is also they put cadmium in rolling papers to make it stiff and easier to light, from what I understand. Okay, so it's in most rolling papers as well. Okay, also it's in the air. Okay, smog. The reason why it's in smog is because they put it in brake linings of cars, okay, because it works well as a brake liner. Now, hopefully in the future, and as they pass good regulations, we'll see cadmium in brake linings disappear, because you don't need cadmium. It doesn't work well, it does work well, but you don't need cadmium. You can use ceramics instead. They're more expensive, but again, it's much better than getting cadmium in our entire planet and the food supply, which is the case today. Okay? Oils, hydrogenated oils, okay, like hydrogenated peanut butter, hydrogenated oils like hydrogenated peanut butter, hydrogenated soybean oil, coconut oil. The reason why is because they use it as a catalyst, just like they use nickel as a catalyst as well, and so some of it gets left in the food stuff. Okay, so that's important to realize as well. Also, there's lots of other. Those are probably the main ones. Are smoking, smog, and hydrogenated oils. But there's lots of other sources as well. Some of it's in the tap water. Some of it's in the soil because the whole world is so polluted today. There's other sources as well. People inherit it from their mothers, just like mercury, what I talked about before, and other metals as well. You know, the babies are born with it because the mothers, especially if they smoke cigarettes or something like that before they get pregnant, they'll inherit the cadmium from their mothers. And it's just very, very widespread today. Also, shellfish. Okay? And this really is true of all seafood. All the seafood have heavy metals in it. And so, especially shellfish have even more heavy metals because they're bottom feeders, and they tend to accumulate more cadmium than the other fish. So like oysters, abalone, those type of things, clam, those have lots of cadmium in them as well. Okay, that's why we don't like seafood. We don't like any seafood. Oysters used to be an excellent food, probably. Okay, even tuna used to be an excellent food. Unfortunately, we can't eat them today because they're too damn toxic, and it sucks, right? It really sucks. because these were perfect foods that God gave to us, and we can't eat them anymore because we screwed up the planet too much. And we see it on the hair test. Anyone that eats any significant amount of seafood like shellfish, we're going to get toxicities. It's just an unfortunate scenario in the world today. And we can only do the best that we can. Okay? So, those are some of the sources. So, you eliminated the sources, but you still have cadmium in your body, right? Because everyone does. So what do? Well, obviously, the whole nutritional balancing program helps. So it's important to realize that I don't target specific minerals, right? So I talked about mercury. I don't target mercury. I don't target copper. I don't target iron toxicity. I don't target any of these things because the program gets rid of them in itself, and the body has its own intent and when it wants to get rid of things, okay? There's no way, if someone has high cadmium on a hair test, there's no way I can give you something that will help with the cadmium. I mean, in certain cases, if they have a high cadmium, I may give them a kidney glandular, which may help their kidneys detoxify the cadmium a little better, or something like that. I may recommend more sauna sessions, more coffee enemas. But these are all just, things used in system science to move the body to a healthier state anyway, and they're not really remedies, okay? So there's no cadmium remedy. There's no magical pill or herb that is specifically designed to get rid of cadmium. Some people use chelators like EDTA and things like that, but those are really bad because they always lower the NAK ratio, sodium to potassium, which is definitely a lower sign of vitality, and they always chelate other minerals, right? When you put EDTA into the body, it's like a shotgun approach. It gets rid of cadmium, but it gets rid of zinc and all the other minerals as well, okay? There's no way to specifically target heavy metals, okay? So we just strengthen the system and help it to get rid of that. So we hydrate the body, we make sure to get plenty of antagonists, okay? So certain minerals are antagonistic to cadmium, things like zinc and calcium especially, okay? So we got to get, minerals, because it's important to realize that minerals compete with each other for absorption, and when your body's deficient in something, it actually uses heavy metals in the enzyme site. This is an important concept that I've talked about before, right? So let's talk about zinc and cadmium, okay? So cadmium has a +2 charge, right? Zinc also has a +2 charge, okay? So they have the same charge, okay? And so what happens is when you're zinc deficient, which all the bodies are today, the body will use cadmium in the enzyme sites because they have the same charge, the valence electrons, and so they can use them in the now it's not a perfect fit, okay, and it's not as nearly as healthy for the body as using zinc, but the body needs something there, and so it'll use the cadmium. And so this kind of compounds the toxicity because all the bodies are zinc deficient, and so they're absorbing even more cadmium because zinc will help block it, okay? So it's important that we supply enough zinc. If we supply enough zinc, the body has no need for the cadmium anymore. Same is true for calcium, okay? Calcium also is antagonistic to cadmium. And so zinc and calcium are probably the two most important minerals. Vitamins that help get rid of it are vitamin C. Everyone gets vitamin C on a program. They're also part of the diet in the cooked vegetables. Cooked vegetables still have some vitamin C in them. And it's also in the metabolic packs and things like that. We don't like high dosing vitamin C because it's also another chelator and it tends to bind. But we do like small dosages of vitamin C as a chelator. And that helps boost the adrenals. Vitamin C helps raise sodium in the tissues, and this also helps get rid of cadmium, okay? And so it's important to realize that what vitamin C is doing, which is a little bit different than the minerals, that the minerals remove the need for the compensation, but vitamin C is also, zinc and calcium do this to an extent too, but vitamin C is helping boost the adrenals and the sodium level, okay? Because cadmium is also an irritant, okay? And what I mean by that is that it helps boost the adrenals. It's an adrenal booster, okay? So it raises the sodium. So it raises sodium, okay? Now sodium is basically an adrenal indicator. So what happens is that the body will use toxic metals to irritate itself in order to boost adrenal activity. And so that's why if someone has a balanced oxidation rate and they eliminate some heavy metals, their second hair test might look worse because all of a sudden you're releasing the compensations, and as you get to an underneath layer, their chemistry isn't as good as they thought it was. Okay, it's because they're using this. And I made a video, my last video was about smoking cigarettes. And cigarettes have cadmium, the way I just talked about. And I was talking about how it hardens the body and things like that. And that's part of it. It hardens the body in order to give the body a false strength. Okay, and so it raises sodium, it stimulates the adrenals, and it helps a person in burnout basically have more energy for a while. Okay, it's a toxic energy. It's not as good as having zinc in it, but it keeps the body going. That's why people smoke cigarettes. Okay, and so let's talk about the physiological effects. Okay, so cadmium is one of the most toxic heavy metals, and so it's important that it imparts a toxic energy to the body. And so cadmium is a more yang mineral. Okay, and what we mean by that is that it's a more masculine mineral. It imparts a certain toxic masculinity. We actually call it the pseudo-strength mineral, because it's not a Christian, Jesus-like, grounded type of energy. It is grounding, but it's a toxic grounding. So you'll notice this in people that smoke cigarettes for a long period of time. Right? They tend to be more, impart certain characteristics to their personality, and you can see that in the person, right? They might have a more rough voice, more rough mannerisms. They tend to have more manly occupations. A lot of times, they often are in the business world if they're women. So like mechanics, electricians, carpenters, things like that. Those a lot of times are ranchers, farmers in the Midwest. Those a lot of times are more of a cadmium personality. A cadmium personality, you'll see this, and they're not as common as they used to be because people are more coppery now. But they used to be more common, but they're like those kind of salt of the earth, hard-working, horse sense type people. They might have rough skin, rough mannerisms. They don't really eat a lot of what they consider health food. They meat and potatoes type people, and it's just kind of confusing to people, but it's important to realize that the mineral really gives that effect to the body. And so women that have cadmium in their bodies, it hardens women as well. And so with the women, it helps them kind of survive more in a man's world. So women that smoke cigarettes and they're high in cadmium, it helps them, compete in the man's world and the business world. And it hardens their personality to an extent too, which isn't good because women should naturally be more coppery, whereas men should be a little more zinc-based. So it's not really good for either sex, but cadmium helps women survive in today's world in a number of ways, because a lot of ways the society is harder on women because they have to compete with men in the business world, along with maybe having children, and a lot of is expected of women. And so a lot of women turn physiologically to cadmium, and a lot of this has to go with smoking cigarettes in order to help it harden themselves so they can harden their bodies, and it's more resilient to the stress of the world, if that makes sense. Cadmium also tends to lodge more in the second chakra, which is like your sexual organs. So women that are high in cadmium, those more business type, maybe real estate type women, they tend, a lot of times they're all more sexual. They have a harder time being in monogamous relationships. Okay, a lot of times they've been divorced numerous times, and they just have a harder time with commitment because they're more sexual and are more interested in having. It's like a more masculine, toxic masculine type of sexuality, where it's not like they're not as interested in being with one man, but it's more like men are there for the sex, I guess. Okay, now this is a broad generalization. Okay, not all business women are high in cadmium or things like that, but it's important that we understand these physiological things of why we do what we do, why we smoke cigarettes. Okay, because it's not just the nicotine, like I talked about in my previous video. Okay, so it's important to realize it kind of gives a toxic yang quality to the body. Okay, and so it's important that we know this, and so we know the root causes of why we do the things that we do. Okay, so like I talked about earlier, the whole program helps eliminate cadmium. Okay, try to eliminate your sources, right? Shellfish, hydrogenated oils, live in a rural area with not as much smog is, obviously better. No smoking cigarettes or marijuana. Marijuana has lots of cadmium as well. And then, just do the program in order to get rid of it. And, it can take a while to eliminate cadmium, okay? Because cadmium is one of the most toxic metals, okay? And so it can take years. It takes, maybe 10 years to get rid of most of your cadmium, okay? And cadmium also, like I talked about, stores in certain places, so it goes more in the sexual organs. And also it goes in the face somewhat. So you'll see, like, in the cadmium personality and those cigarette-type smoking people, a lot of time they have rougher faces as well. And actually part of an elimination of cadmium, your body will eliminate cadmium through the face. And so a lot of people, as they heal in their program, they get more developed, as we call it. They'll actually get a rash on their face as they eliminate toxic forms of cadmium. And then afterwards, they'll look a lot better and things like that. Because cadmium helps ground people in today's world. It's, like I said, it's a yang, more second and first energy center, chakras we call them, type of mineral, and that it helps ground the person, helps them survive in the physical world, and it helps them make quick decisions. So like military men, it's more common in military men and things like that. As we release it, we become more spiritual, we become more zinc and copper and selenium based, and become, less of the world, right? Okay. And I was very high in cadmium on my first test, mostly because I smoked a lot of pot when I was younger. And I'm sure I have a lot more cadmium to eliminate, okay? Because it could also be in a poor eliminator range, okay? So if cadmium is very low, it's what we call a poor eliminator, okay? It means your body doesn't have enough energy to eliminate it. And cadmium is the most common poor eliminator because, like I talked about earlier, it's the hardest heavy metal to get rid of. It's the most toxic, and so it's the most common poor eliminator because it's just the hardest to get rid of, and so people in general have the hardest time to get rid of it compared to any other metal. Okay, so that's important to realize as well. Okay, and then it also in excess, it's important to realize that it kind of goes too far, right? So it gives the person a toxic personality, makes them more grounded and able to survive, but then a lot of people get too much cadmium in it, and it's associated with like violence, for example. It helps you make quick decisions, but you get too much of it, and then all of a sudden, you turn into violent behavior. It contributes to cancer, diabetes. It actually will harden things, okay? So that's one of the reasons why they use it in rolling papers and other things like the brake linings. Cadmium is a harder toxic element. So like zinc is more flexible, right? And so when you get more zinc in the tissues, your body becomes more supple, right? You can move easier. There's less adhesions in the body. The personality is smoother, okay? That's like selenium. It has a more smooth personality trait, okay? Where cadmium is more of, that grounded, toxic sort of thing. And it'll actually, in excess, it'll make the person, like I said, it'll make them angry and things like that. And, it's important to realize that as we remove the cadmium, people's personalities will shift, okay? As we give them more zinc and things like that, their personalities will actually shift from this sort of toxic yang. And the zinc helps, and then it's important to ground the person as well because they'll miss that grounding. The cadmium will ground them, and they miss that grounding, and so it's important that we keep the body grounded with things like zinc and things like that. Also, cadmium, like I talked about, it hardens things, so it hardens the arteries. A lot of times it has to do with heart disease and things like that. Like I said, cancer, a lot of things. Cadmium doesn't generally tend to cause one specific disease. Some metals do cause more specific diseases, but cadmium doesn't really cause specific things. It's more like a general hardening of the body and the personality. Okay, so it hardens the tissues, hardens the arteries, so high blood pressure contribute to, hardens the body, so it causes hard tumors. Hardens the mind, and so you're less, as you age and you accumulate cadmium, you'll be less able to, think of new flexible ideas, things like that. Okay. So I think that's all about I want to talk about. A poor eliminator range is anything below 0.005 on a hair test, parts per million. That'll be a poor eliminator. Okay, and most people will eliminate excess cadmium on the hair test at some point because it's in everyone's bodies. Okay, and healing it and getting rid of it is a very important step in everyone's healing today. And I hope this helps you understand why some people are the way that they are and why it seems like people that do certain things and put certain things on their bodies really have that effect, and it seems like that kind of goes along with these personalities. Because it's important that people learn these things, and the truth is out there that, why things are the way that they are. Because a lot of times we know this, right? We see that person, and we think, oh, they're that way for a certain reason. There must be something, and this kind of mineral concept helps people realize that, okay? And it helps us understand why we are the way we are and how we can move forward in our evolution, both as ourselves and as a species, okay? So don't forget to like the video, don't forget to subscribe, let me know if you have any questions, and I'll talk to you guys later.